interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
Yo, it's Remember the Show. Slick with the flows, where the sparring can go. Who's gonna be on, man, you never will know. Guess you better tune in, cause we live from Chicago. Belal Muhammad, that's the king of the tweets. Jason Anik looks like John, step his hands to his feet. Every Thursday, we gon' give you a treat. It's Remember the Show, hit play and repeat. And retweet, and retweet, and retweet. And retweet, it's Remember the Show, hit play and repeat.
What's up, everybody? Episode 123. Remember the Show. You know, that rap's still holding up. Cody Merrow at the helm on that rap, Bully B. It's still holding up. On your screen, Belal, remember the name Muhammad, the UFC's #1 welterweight contender. No announcement for UFC 300 yet for my boy, but we'll get to that. How you doing, brother?
What's up, my brother? Yeah, we're starting off. We're starting off small with, obviously you got to do the lighter weight classes, and they build up to the bigger ones.
Yeah, exactly. We haven't announced the co-main or the main event yet, right? So we're okay. What's up, Madison? Appreciate you being with us live. So let's get right into topics. I did go there right out of the gate, UFC 300. So as we know, UFC 299 in Miami, stacked, right? Completely stacked. So UFC 300, though, starting to come together. A lot of people saying, like, is 300 going to be like as good as 299? But it's getting there. So Charles Oliveira going to fight Arman Tsarukyan, lightweight division. Then Dana White announced Zhang Weili will face Yan Xiaonan for the UFC strawweight title. First time two fighters from China meeting for a title fight. So first of all, for those two, your thoughts on either one of those that'll be fighting beneath you on that card?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the Oliveira card against Arman is going to be amazing. I think that's a huge fight for that division, especially for Charles to take that fight, because he thought, he was just about to fight for the title. He got hurt. Then you're going to fight a monster in Arman, who I think, he's one of the guys who gave Islam one of his toughest fights. It was short notice, and Islam was sick that day, I think he said, but it was still a great fight. And then I think he's one of those guys that everybody's trying to avoid. He's fighting all the tough fighters. He just knocked out Benir Dariush. So I think matchup-wise, stylistically, I think I'm favoring Arman in this one. I think he has power. He has grappling. Charles is so comfortable getting taken down, playing guard off his back. I think Arman could hit him with some good ground and pound. But Charles always figures out a way. So that'll be a fun one. Definitely the women's strawweight title fight. I mean, she's always in the most exciting fights. I think she's the most exciting women's fighter in history. And, Yao Xiaonan is a beast herself. So I want to see that one, especially the history behind it. It'll be a really good one for China, a big one for China. And I think it's going to be a lot of eyeballs for that one.
Yeah, I love Dana White when he gets all Massachusetts. He's like, this one's going to be badass. You can like read through the lines on Twitter. I love it. Dana's all fired up. Dana's got some good energy flowing through him now, being healthy, man. I tell you.
It's like when you look at other videos, like people are posting so many like old memes of him because they were like waiting on Twitter, like, when is this announcement going to come? He said 10 minutes. And it's been like, and I'm looking at old videos of like, he was like bigger, fatter, and out of shape. And you're like, man, ew. And then you see him now, you're like, dang, like the energy level, the look on his face, like it's a huge difference. And it just shows you like just how getting healthier can change your life, change your energy, change, better you for everything.
No doubt about it. All right. So before we move on to the next topic, I have to say, I don't know if you saw this, but I think Nate Diaz tweeted something out today. Like, hey, I was supposed to headline UFC 200. I know he's got the boxing with Masvidal, whatever, but, I think he put up a picture of him versus Conor on UFC 300. Regardless of this boxing match, if both those guys want to make that happen, I mean, what are we doing? We're talking about Chandler and Conor, but any smoke there, you think?
I think Nate he likes to troll. He knows that him tweeting something, it'll blow up. Yeah, I saw that other thing too. Mike Perry called Hunter Campbell live on his podcast, and I think Hunter answered, and he was like, "Yeah, me against Nate Diaz, main event. Let's book it." And Hunter was like, "I got something better," and then it cut off. So I need to go watch his podcast to redo that. Mike Perry's the man, so I can just tell it's gonna be hilarious. But yeah, Nate's like a Conor. I think they both like that attention. They know it's gonna get attention, whatever they tweet. I think he's gonna fight Masvidal. That fight obviously makes sense for both those guys in boxing, so that'll be a fun one. But I don't see him coming back. There's not that big fight. Who's he going to come back and fight? At first, I thought it was going to be Poirier, but now that Poirier is already booked, It's not going to be Poirier. Then Chandler and McGregor are both booked. So who would he fight? I mean, I would be excited for him against Mike Perry. That would definitely be a good one.
I tell you what, me too.
Yeah, but I don't see it happening. Like, I don't see either one of them dudes coming back or Nate coming back, especially the last fight he had in the UFC didn't look that great against Tony Ferguson.
Yeah, so Cody was putting in the chat rumors, I guess, Diaz, Masvidal in May. So, depending on what happens at 300, everyone wants a piece of that 300 card. You could be sure.
Yeah, I mean, any bigger name that gets added to it, it's only for the best, right? Because it just brings more hype to it. And everybody's going to want to tune in to watch Nate Diaz. Whether he wins or loses, they're watching.
No doubt about it. We'll get to Bully B, as you see. Topic number 4. I'll bite my tongue here. Let's move on to the All-American. So Chris Weidman expected to meet Bruno Silva March 30th, UFC Fight Night, Atlantic City, New Jersey, close to home. So I guess he told DC this week, could be my last fight. And for me, when I see that headline, could be my last fight, that's your last fight. No, could be. Amazing for Chris Weidman, I think, to go back to New Jersey, close to home. And he said, right, like, now I haven't watched this ESPN documentary about his comeback, but apparently the rehab was just absolutely brutal. The fact that he even came back to fight once and he's going to fight again. But I haven't seen this yet, but just to sort of, I think he talked about going out sort of where he started. I think he started in Atlantic City, Jersey. I know he's Carolina Chris now, but I just have to say he's an incredible human being. I've gotten to know him. I'm such a big fan. Thankful in a way that he sort of put this out there a little bit that it could be his last fight, because I hope it's his swan song. Whereas last time was like everybody sort of worried about seeing him back in there. He deserves that sort of fanfare going away party, and I hope this is it.
Yeah, definitely, right? Because he's been there, he's been at the top, he's been a champion, and then to go through all the injuries he's had, all the surgeries he's had, it's like takes a toll on your body. So I'm glad that he's putting a label on this fight, and I think it's a perfect fight for him against Bruno Silva. I mean, he got taken down pretty easily his last fight, so I'm hoping that Chris go in there, take him down, leave with a victory. But I don't know. Chris is one of those guys where I feel like a win will get him thinking, I can do more. I want this. Now, like, I haven't fought Adesanya yet. I haven't fought this guy yet. Like, it gets you hyped up. But I just seen like Jake Shields is posting something now where he's like, whenever anybody always asks me, should I be a fighter? Like, then you shouldn't. If you had to ask the question, because there's so much that goes into it, right? There's so much work, blood, sweat, tears, injuries, time away from your family, and you have to put all those hours in. Because if you're not putting all those hours in and all that dedication in, like, you could get really hurt in there. You could get your jaw broken. You could get brain damage. There's a million things that could go wrong for you in there if you're not fully committed to it. And for these older fighters, when it gets to that time of their career where they're not the champion anymore, and they've been there, they've been at the top, and now they don't really have that same hunger. So you're not really putting all that work into the gym. You're not really going all that extra work. But these young guys are hungry. They're coming for you. And you have that name, so they want to take your name. So they're going to want to make a name off you. And that's when guys like Chris Weidman, Tony Ferguson, those guys need to have the people around him like, yo, hey, it's time. Bro. Like, you haven't been to the gym in weeks. Like, you're training one time a day. It's like, that's not the old Chris Weidman.
Yeah, and Ray Longo even alluded on the Anik and Florian podcast this week about sort of Chris almost like that leg's not, that leg is not 100%. You could be sure. So
yeah, I mean, exactly. You never know how somebody would come back off of that. And even that last fight, he was still limping from those low kicks from Tavares. And whether you say it's, it was just a good low kick to the other leg, it's like, no, I have a feeling they had to do something with that injured leg. It's not like that leg was just okay. And Bruno Silva's, he has dynamite in his hands. He knocks out a lot of these guys. He's been in there. He went to decision with Pereira. So he's tough.
All right, let's move on to Toronto. And we will be moving on to Toronto. As remember, the show takes its show on the road. We join our guy, TJ DeSantis, on the set of Extra Rounds. A little show on Friday night, little pre-show Saturday night. Belal Muhammad isn't opposed to that. We don't know where exactly we'll be, but we'll let you all know. Maybe get some fans involved. So I'm excited about that. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, definitely. I love Toronto. I was down there.
That's right.
Yeah, we had a charity event down there. So like the fans over there were so cool. And I want to just be down there more. Now I like to eat. So now we can eat. We can go down there, check out some real food, not cutting weight, have a little bit of fun down there.
I love it. Listen to this guy from Chicago. Everything's down there, right? When you're up in Chicago, we're going down to Toronto. It's like, we're going up there to the cold, man. Dude, and I tell you, I was saying earlier this week, like when we're down here, like the mornings, right? It might be in the low 60s, right? My girl's putting on these thick jackets. You would be laughing, right? So it's going to be cold up there. We might have to let the hair down a little bit, help warm up the neck and ears. But your favorite fighter, Sean Strickland, I believe, is competing in the main event that night. Is that correct?
First, let me go back. I messaged Jared a picture of the snowstorm in Chicago, and he's like, "Oh, dude, it's freezing over here too, man. It's like 72 degrees. I had to wear a sweater." I was like, "Bro, I hate you right now." He's like, I told you to move.
It's embarrassing that we like. I'm wearing a sweatshirt right now, honestly, Bully, because it's probably like low 60s out right now. You know,
I wish I had that luxury, but
so
yeah, I mean, it's definitely gonna be fun. Obviously, hopefully my dude Duplessis can pull this off. I'm gonna send him some notes that I've seen. So hopefully he pays attention to those things. But I think it's gonna be a fun build-up with both those guys. I want to see if it gets a little bit dirty at the press conference. And also, you see Bueno Silva going hard at Strickland now. She was coming at him because he was saying that he needs to help the women sell a fight. So she went back at him. So that's always fun when you have people on the card that are coming at each other. There's other good fights. Mike Malott is on there. That'll be a cool one to watch. And like I said, fighting's been gone for 4 weeks. So
Dude.
now I have such a hunger for it. Like now that I'm gonna be able to go to a live show next week, it's gonna feel so good.
I can't get enough. And you bring up Mike Malott. We talked to him on the Anik and Florian podcast earlier this week. Man, dude, I'm glad you guys will probably have different reigns at the top because I think he's headed there someday. He really has a good head on his shoulders, and he spent a lot of time at Alpha Male and just talking about that time, as a coach, not even as a fighter. And you've talked a lot about your times as a coach. And when I see you in the corner, I think you can learn so much watching other guys and sort of stepping outside yourself in this game.
Yeah, exactly. And especially, like I said, because we're a small gym. So whenever I watch tape on this guy's fight, who he has a fight, or this guy has a fight, Nacho has a fight, Charlie has a fight, I'm watching tape on their opponents and I'm pulling that into when I go to the training room to help them. And it just opens up your mind because you have to emulate somebody else's different style. And maybe you pick up something like, oh, hey, this works for me. And maybe I could add this to my game too. And, we got 2 guys in the gym right now that are my size. Both of them have fights. So I got a lot of emulating to do.
I love it. Well, hopefully you're going to have a fight soon. But anyway, that Mike Malott interview will be dropping, I believe, DraftKings YouTube channel, Anik and Florian Podcast tonight around 8:00 p.m. But let's move to my favorite topic.
Drop it on Wednesday?
Well, so they do multiple episodes a week. One of them is to tape early in the week. So it's normally Monday and then another one Thursday. But, Cody Merrow probably speak better to that than me. Work in progress.
Come on, Cody, bro. I drive so much. So I have my list of podcasts that I need to listen to. I listen to the Anik Florian Monday. Then I go to the one had a really good one, Theo Vaughn. Then I'll go to the podcast, the Andrew Schultz podcast. Then Wednesday should have another podcast by that time for Anik Florian.
Andrew Schultz, were you backstage with this guy again? How many times have you seen this guy live? Not the first time.
Yeah, it's not the first time. Yeah, it was cool. He was in Chicago. He did it at Chicago Theater, so it was awesome to see. But like I said, they're doing a lot of polishing for their special, right? So I've been to the show 5 times this year. So it's basically the same show that he's been doing on. So it's but you see how he makes minor adjustments to change this word, that word. And it gives you kind of a fight style with comedians because they're training it. They're doing it every single day. They're trying to perfect it, get better with it every single time. And you see the minor adjustment. Oh, dang, that was a really good switch up, or his facial expression. And I've been going to a lot of comedy shows lately, so it's cool to see just how the best do it. And then you see how the up and comers do it. And it's literally amateur fighting, pro fighting, and you're seeing the differences between all of them. So it's cool. And just hanging out with him, literally being in the back. We were talking for him for 2 hours. And just having a conversation with him is so funny because he's hilarious, just nonstop the whole time.
Yeah. Putting on that Team Muhammad jacket. We love that. But it is true with live audience. They'll tell you everything you need to know. I've done some theater in the past, and you can be sure if you're delivering a line one night and it falls flat, you come back a different way. They'll give you all the answers you need. You can be sure. Let's talk about remember the name Muhammad. What the fudge is going on, man? You got nothing for me, I'm sure. What's going on, man? I know you're ready. It just seems so inevitable, like we said last week, that you're going to be the co-main event at UFC 300. And no disrespect in saying co-main event, but it just seems like, I feel like it's an inevitability. Anything changed in a week?
Literally, if you know how many calls I got yesterday when Dana White was like, I'm gonna do an announcement in an hour and a half, and I was getting bro, is it you? Is it this? Is it this? I was like, bro, I'm hoping that's the announcement. So it's I'm just sitting there waiting. For me, it's I get it out of my head now. So I've been so over anxious and overthinking it and so stressed out about it. Where now I'm just all right, we're training, we're gonna do us. It's going to be announced when it's going to be announced. It's going to be pushed when it's going to be pushed. All I can control is what I do. And what I can do is keep getting better every single day, keep growing every single day.
Yeah, and if they want to announce it at UFC 297, Belal Muhammad will be in the building. It wouldn't be hard to find with one of those cameras. You know, you can make a big announcement right there in the building. Boy, he'll be there. Anyway, for me, it's like, I know you're training. I know you're planning. I just, at some point, it's like they talk about, okay, maybe the idea of Strickland fighting on UFC 300, Strickland against Izzy or whatever. Well, I got to get through Duplessis first, right? And so that timeline is even getting close. So the welterweight championship, I think, is going to be announced soon.
I don't see them like putting all their eggs in that one basket, right? Because there's like anything can happen in a fight. One of these guys get injured. One of these guys I don't know, man. I'm sitting there thinking that Pereira against Aspinall could be a possibility now. When I'm putting all the pieces, I'm thinking like, who could be fighting, right? And I know Jamal Hill's not healthy yet, so I'm looking at who would fight Pereira. And there's a lot of 205-pounders that are fighting right now. We got Ankalaev fighting this week, so maybe he gets a big finish quick. Maybe he hops back onto that card. But there's angles, right? Pereira put that I'm 236 right now, and I'm sure that he wouldn't be afraid for going for history to be the heavyweight champ, light heavyweight champ, and middleweight champ. That would be a huge thing for 300. So, and there's nobody for Aspinall to fight.
Well, right. Is it going to be Brock Lesnar, as Bisping was alluding to? I don't know. Well, he said, talked about the possibility and liking to see it. Who knows what he knows or what's really out there? That would be better.
I mean, I think that show is like, that show's all over the place. When you have Anthony Smith saying that Jim Miller could beat freaking Brock Lesnar, like, bro, come on.
Right. Jim Miller. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. I was like, even Jim Miller probably watched that show like, bro, come on. What are you on, Anthony?
No, I love it. I love Jim Miller's comments about that at the press conference. We'll get to that later. Well, I might as well get into it. But Bully B, hopefully we'll find something out soon. But I know you're still continuing to condition that body. 3 years ago, man, that you fought Leon almost. It's a long time.
Yeah, a lot of stuff has changed, and all we've been doing is getting better. So
exactly,
we're ready.
All right, let's move on. UFC Fight Night, Vegas 84, as they're calling it. Ankalaev versus Walker 2. Even that first round no contest, they still treat it as Ankalaev versus Walker 2. Anyway, lines brought to you by DraftKings Sportsbook. Main event live, 7:00 Eastern from the UFC Apex. So I think John and Kenny may do like a little watch party for the main event, which should be exciting. Get John in studio. I may creep over there, so we may start to do some stuff. So should be fun.
On like this website? Or
yeah, on the Anik and Florian Podcast website. Yeah, thank you. See, Bully Beach on the Anik and Florian YouTube channel. Yeah, I'm trying to convince those boys, they don't get a ton of weekends or Saturday nights off, but I was talking to them the other day. I'm like, are you guys both going to be watching the fights? And they're quiet. Yeah, exactly. All right, boys, we might put them to work. So
that'd be cool.
Yeah, right. So anyway, before we get to the three Bullies Bicks, nice to have Bullies Bicks back in my life. Shout out Farid Basharat. Farid Basharat. He's on this card on the prelims. Former Remember the Show guest, taking on the Frenchman Taylor Lapalus. I like those Basharat brothers, man. So I just want to shout him out.
Yeah. They've been doing a lot more stuff on their YouTube page. Go check their stuff out. They show a little bit of their inside to their camps. And it's been cool. It's like I tell a lot of these younger guys, start putting yourself out there now, so people will start knowing who you are. You start building your name, building your brand.
Yeah. Pink ribbon skies. You don't know all the truths. Oh, if you only knew the truth in that one, but you won't know it. I was second to the party. I'll leave it at that. Moving on. Featured bout lightweight division. Jim Miller, -142 versus Gabriel Bonitz, +120. So Jim Miller, you talked about it earlier, right? So he was talking, I think someone asked him a question, but he's, talking about his ability to like Kimura Brock Lesnar, and he's like, well, I can deadlift 500 pounds. He's like, Brock Lesnar can't curl 500 pounds with one arm. He's like, so I could, if you give me an arm, and he's saying it with a laugh. He's a humble guy, but he's like, you can be sure if I'm walking to the octagon to face Brock Lesnar, I think I'm going to fucking beat him. Like, I loved it. Give me all of Jim Miller. And I know he wants to be on UFC 300. I hope he doesn't get banged up, or I hope he comes to this. But anyway, slight favorite here. He's the man. So Jim Miller's won 4 of 5. Last time out, first round knockout, Jesse Butler. That was back on June 3rd. His opponent, Gabriel Bonitz, has been around, albeit to a lesser extent than Jim Miller. So 35-year-old bounced back from back-to-back losses with a win his last time out. That was against Charlie Ontiveros. That was back August 2022. So it's been a while, I guess. I don't know if he had an injury or whatever, but slight underdog here. Jim Miller, certainly the fan favorite. Not a lot of fans in the Apex. Who do you got here in the first pick of 2024?
These odds are crazy. I would like.
I just looked up. Nice, Cody.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm gonna go with my dude Jim. He's like he gets better every single fight. I know his last fight was a short notice opponent. It was supposed to be Jared Gordon that day. So just watching tape on him for Jared, it's like, dang, this guy is still so good, and he's still growing. And he's still like he hasn't looked like he lost a step since he's been on a streak recently. Gabriel, he's a beast. His low kicks are really good. I know he won his last one, but I don't think that opponent's anywhere near what Jim Miller is. I think just Jim Miller is just one of those tough guys. I'm picking Jim here, especially if he's talking about 300. He's excited for it. He's hyped for it. So he knows that a win here would be that much bigger to turn around and fight on 300 off of a win. So I'm going with my boy, Jimmy.
You know, that fight with Jim Miller and Flash is still very appealing to me. No way Flash will be ready by April, right?
Yeah, no, he just had his wrist surgery. So he has like a huge cast from his bicep down to his wrist. But he's still doing a bunch of ab stuff now. He's just doing anything just to stay active, but he can't train yet. So hopefully, I think he said it comes off within like 3 or 4 weeks. So you have to see how your arm's going to feel, your hand's going to feel off of that when you go back to punching and stuff.
Gotcha.
There's a lot of stuff you do with your wrist. So having a wrist surgery is crazy.
I hear you. All right. Heal well, Jared. Moving on to the co-main event. Flyweight division. Matheus Nicolau versus Manel Kape, former Remember the Show winner, I believe. So Matheus Nicolau, in and out of the UFC, made his return. You know all this inside your brain because everything stays in Belal's head, everything. So Nicolau made his return to the UFC, wins split decision over Manel Kape. That was actually the night Leon poked you in the eye, March 13th, 2021. As we were saying, Leon, Belal's been getting better for 3 whole years. So that catapulted him to 4 straight wins in the big show before a loss last time out. That was April 15th, 2023. First round knockout at the hands of the recent title challenger and fucking animal, Brandon Royval. So pretty good. You win 4 straight, then you lose to Royval. Not a bad loss. Has to be a great learning experience as he heads into this rematch against a man, for my money, he could headline any main event the UFC has to offer. Manel Kape every day of the week. I love his energy. Sharp kid. I just think he's going to fight for a title at some point. Just turned 30 in November. So almost a 3-1 favorite here, minus 278. Nicolau back at plus 225. Kape has won 4 straight since that split decision loss to Nicolau back in 2021. I'm sure he'd love to avenge that loss, as anyone would like to. I think you've avenged some losses in your past. What was that? What's his name again? Luque, was that it? That was the one. Anyway, Belal, who's the Bick in the co-main event?
Yeah, I was surprised when I saw this fight, right, for Kape, who's on a big streak. He was calling out Kai France. I figured that would be a bigger name for him, especially with his fight style, but maybe he did want to get this one back, especially I think it was definitely a controversial decision. The first round, I think it was Nicolau just kept taking him down. Second round, Kape started opening up, letting him up on the feet more. And the third round was very close, but it ended with Kape hitting him with some hard shots. And I think that it was really close fight for Kape. That was, I think, it was his second fight in the UFC, and his first fight was like against Pantoja. So you came in, you've been fighting dogs right away. So I think now that he's got his feet wet in the UFC, he's more comfortable in there. He's getting better. Even as his last opponent lasted 3 rounds, like Kape put on a show. He went hard with them. Great striking, great combos. And I think I'm going to go with Kape here, especially when you go against a guy, you get a feel for his strength, feel for his technique, feel for his speed. I think Kape now, with his confidence, his streak going, knowing that he's this close to the title, he's going to come out here and try to make a big statement.
Just amazing how everything stays inside that steel trap. I know I just alluded to it, but it's like you're talking about round 1, round 2, round 3. I feel like there's some guys out there like me who your brain just works in different ways. There's certain things you can be sure that I can remember, but the fight memory, I'm sure you come across as certain guys that remember everything like you, and then other guys that really don't, even though they were there. And when you talk about it, it rings a bell, but it's not like they could recall it like you.
Yeah, but it depends on who I'm talking about, right? I'm a huge Manel Kape fan. He's a beast. Like, even when he got into the UFC, I was excited for it. So, like, I remember those just because I was like, oh man, let's wait to watch him. I can't wait to see him. So it's cool seeing his come up, because when I came in, I was like, oh, this guy's he's gonna fight for a belt. And then when he loses 2, you're like, dang, maybe he wasn't as good as he was. But now that he started opening up, getting better, comfortable, now you see it.
I love it. Main event of the evening as we move along. Magomed Ankalaev versus Johnny Walker 2. Magomed Ankalaev minus 550. Johnny Walker coming back at plus 410. Ray Longo earlier in the week alluded to the fact that he liked Johnny Walker. The odds weren't even nearly this. I think it was plus 325, and he liked Johnny Walker. But Magomed Ankalaev is my favorite fighter. He's Joe Rogan's favorite fighter. A lot of people love this guy. You know, I say that a little bit tongue in cheek. But John always talks about these Wikipedia pages with all these green stripes and red stripe. It's like Magomed Ankalaev, a bunch of green stripes, and then these 2 blue stripes with the draw and the no contest. So the draw, which is one of my favorite fights of all time. Sorry, everybody, against Jan Blachowicz. I love that fight. I was thoroughly entertained with those enormous men just brutalizing one another. But Dana didn't share my opinion. Anyway, so last time out, no contest against Johnny Walker. That was the illegal knee, 3 minutes, 13 seconds into round 1. That was October 21st of last year. I'm anxious to see Ankalaev compete for the belt. Like, I really believe that he will compete for the belt at some point. And no disrespect to Johnny Walker. Walker, super exciting. He was on a 3-fight winning streak before that fight, and 3 solid fighters he beat: Iwan Kutalaba, Paul Craig, Anthony Lionheart Smith. I love this matchup. I'm glad they're running it back. I'm very hopeful for Ankalaev that there's some clarity coming out of this. Huge line on paper. Bully B, do you give Johnny Walker a shot?
Yeah, man, it's crazy when you see a fight end by no contest and to get an automatic rematch. You're like, makes no sense in the
Right?
world. Something
Within
like that.
3 months?
With a foul, yeah.
Seriously. You're going to have to wait 3 years and win 5 straight fight against killers. That's right. Still smiling.
Yeah, but I was at this fight in Abu Dhabi. I was so mad because it was starting to heat up. Both these guys were going back and forth. And I just go back to Johnny Walker acting like his stomach, he got hit in the stomach, and then he come up with that flying knee. It was like, he does so much weird things. And that was like my first time watching him live. But you understand now how he gets these random knockouts out of nowhere. Because his punches and strikes will come out of nowhere because it's unorthodox stuff. And for a guy like Ankalaev, who's very disciplined with his striking, his defense, his wrestling, he's good everywhere. You just have to be perfect in that one night. You can't zig when you should zag. So you got to be on point, you know, with your hands high, with your defense, with your striking, everything, because Johnny Walker will throw from anywhere. I think Ankalaev will come here and shoot on him, take him down, and dominate on top. Because even when we saw Ankalaev fight Jan, it was like, all right, when he started wrestling, he controlled them the whole fight. You know, you didn't have to take those low kicks. Like, win the fight the easiest path to victory. And I think the easiest path to victory for him against Johnny Walker would be taking him down. But you see Johnny Walker doing a little bit of trash talk. I don't know if Ankalaev, like I said, coming off what has been like a year and a half now of just like undecisiveness, where you're like, draw this. Now you're so hungry, right? You get impatient. So now is he going to come out a little bit harder now and go for a big finish, especially with a champion with no contender right now? And that 300 card is right around the corner. So you go out there, get a big finish. Then they'll be calling for you to get that fight. They'll be calling for you to fight for the belt right there. And then Pereira will be like, all right, well, I'll fight this guy. And I think that the winner of this fight, definitely, if it's a finish, can get that fight. But I'm going to go with Ankalaev.
I don't blame you. You know, you bring up a lot of interesting points, and there's so many things that I think about in terms of your next fight and the date. You know, we were talking a little bit, right? So, you know, February 17th in Anaheim, right? You're going to go to Dagestan or find Khabib for a month somewhere, right? Wherever that may be, right? You're cornering someone February 3rd, right? Chuck Buffalo, right? February 3rd at the Apex, right? Maybe we're doing extra rounds in Anaheim February 17th, right? And I have a long-winded point here, but you got Aljo, who, if you recall, one of his teammates, Dennis Bazooka, got that short notice opportunity. And like a week before Aljo's fight, he's flying out to Vegas to corner Bazooka or whatever it is, right? Cody, forgive me if I'm messing that up in some way, but I'm just thinking about your next sort of few months. And you made a comment to me privately that I don't think is too much to share, but that just you train all day long. It'll be nice for us to go to Toronto, do a little broadcasting work just to sort of get you out of that mode. So when I ask you, I know the fight's not on the books, but whether it's cornering in February, whether it's the month training and then Ramadan, all these things thinking about, how do you remain focused sort of one day at a time when it's a lot of different variables as you sort of plan these next few months to peak April 13th?
Like you said, for me, it's mentally staying centered, knowing what the goal is, and also just being like grateful for everything, because I could be so impatient right now. I could be like, oh, I want this. But then when I go back to everything I had to do to get where I am today and taking it every single day and knowing that, bro, there's a million people that want to be in your place. There's a million people that want to have what you have, a million fighters that wish they were that had the opportunities you have right now. I worked hard for it, but like I always look past what's next. If they're winning a fight, it's like, all right, what's next? What's next? And it's like I got to live more in the moment and enjoy the journey more than anything. And I keep forgetting about that because I'm always looking at the goal, the end goal. It's always been the goal for me is the goal. And you skipped all the extra stuff that's like, bro, we're chilling in Toronto now. Now we could go. We're doing that show over there, and it's cool to do those things. So it's like I just got to be more grateful and be like, all right, enjoy this, live here right now, because you never even know what'll happen for tomorrow. You never even know, any day can change with the blink of an eye. So just start appreciating more every time you have to do the things. I wake up every day and I go to the gym, and it's like the best thing that can happen to me, and I'm just like so happy there because the stresses of life are gone in there, because those 2 hours that I'm there, that's what I'm doing, what I have to love. And there's a lot of guys that wake up every day, go to work, and they don't love what they do. So for me, it's like, I love what I do. I love my teammates. I love my coaches that are with me. So I forget about all my other issues. And it's only when I'm doing what I love. So I got to stop over stressing about it. Like I said, people are calling me, hey, is Danny going to actually good at, hey, I don't know. Like, I want to just stay off social media. And
I hear you.
When it comes, it's going to come. When it happens, it's going to happen. And it's God's plan is the only plan that matters.
I love it. Well, in the day-to-day, so we were talking, Belal was telling me about some cookie spot in Toronto. Like, they got great cookies, right? And so I've seen this dude in camp, out of camp, the way he handles sweets. And like, he talks a big game about these sweets, but he's like, he's a little bit full of, so it's like, in camp, like definitely not taking a bite, but we'll go to this cookie place in Toronto, and this dude will take, like, I was like, oh, so you're going to eat a quarter of a cookie, right? This dude just, it'll be a little nibble, right? And I'll be just pounding it, right? 45 years old, take me a week to get rid of it. So I have to say, I saw this interview with you and John Morgan back from 2019, right? That was out there this week. I believe it was 2019 after you lost to Jeff Neal, last time you lost. And a couple things. I've talked about that fight more than you would like me to, probably, perhaps, but just because I thought your toughness, when you're hoisting that belt, I'm going to talk about that fight even more, because I just think that fight is one that you'll probably point to many, many times in your life as a big learning experience, unless I'm mistaken. It was just a very tough fight, but you got through it. You didn't get finished. You're obviously a far different fighter than you were back then. But I also thought it was very interesting listening to your interview and how your mentality, and I say this as a huge compliment, really hasn't changed, right? Like, you were really just very centered back then too. And that's a year before I even met you, you were locked in back then mentally. Yeah,
exactly. I think that was always the thing that separated me from a lot of these other fighters. Mentally, I was a lot stronger than these guys. Skill wise, athletically, I had to do a lot of things to get where I am today, but that took a lot of hard work. But mentally, I was already at the top of the game with all these guys. And even when I post that fight or that interview, it's to show people that it's like, you hear it so many times now with all these fighters. There's always an excuse. There's always a reason. Oh, it's because of this, or it's because of that, or it's because of this. And for me, it was always, all right, what do we got to do? You got to take accountability. And there's a lot of people in this world that don't take accountability for the stuff that they do, the mistakes they made. Even with some coaches will be like, you didn't listen to my game plan. Why don't you listen to my game plan? It's like, no, we need to fix this. We need to do this. We win as a team, lose as a team. And that was always my mentality. It was like, we got to get better. It's always getting better. Even off of wins now, it's like, we got to get better. What do we got to change? Go back. I got hit with this. So what do I got to do to not get hit with that again? What do I got to do to hit with this again? And there's always something that can happen when you go into a fight, when you go out of a fight. And like I said, Lou was one of those, my coaches that always taught me from the beginning. It's like, if we're going into a fight with an injury, we got to scrap it up. Like, we're not going into this fight with a built-in excuse of, if we lose, it's just like, oh, we did this. We've had so many camps where I would literally be, before I even got into UFC, there was a fight that I had, and I was like, we were cutting weight for it, and I was like crying in the back. So I was like, I knew I wasn't ready for it because I didn't train hard enough. And he was just like, man, that fuck. Like, that's it. We're here now. Like, we got to do this now. That's it. We're done. So there's nothing else that can be changed. Us giving this excuse of 2 days before the fight because of this or that, it's like, that's not going to help anything. So we got to man up, suck it up. We'll do better next time. And that thing is always like stuck with me in my head, because I looked at myself at that day and I saw how soft I was. And I was like, man, you're a coward. And I call it coward because you're trying to build that excuse already in your mindset for why I could fail or why I could get tired. I was just in an Orange Theory class today, earlier in the morning, and I did it with my boy Mike Cannon. We were running on a treadmill sprinting, and I was like, he never jogs, but he was like jogging at a 6 mile per hour rate, and I was like, me just keep up with him. But I was like, why are you being a coward for? Man up. I did like 2 more, went up to 8, and I was like, stop settling when you know you can do better for yourself.
Dude, give me all of this. Dude, I love it. Hey, Cody put a couple things in the chat that I just think are pretty funny, right? We're talking about the last time Belal lost a fight because we're all trying to remember it. Last time Belal Muhammad lost a fight, Without Me by Halsey was the #1 song in the country. Sicko Mode by Travis Scott was 4th. Top movie in the country was Aquaman. Gas in Chicago, $2.21.
Yeah, I would go down. Gas.
Right? Good stuff today. And remember the show. Hopefully, those of you that are north of the border will come find us. UFC 297 in Toronto. We'll let you know where it's going to be at Friday night, Saturday night, but somewhere for you fans to come meet the future welterweight champion.
Out there?
What's up?
Puccini or Puccini?
Yeah. They're poutine. I was like poutine is what they call it in Canada. I don't know about poutine. What cheese, curds, and fries and gravy. I don't know. I got a lot of love for the people up north of the border. You can be sure. But anyway, for the great Belal Muhammad, Cody Merrow is at the helm. As always, we appreciate you, Cody. And we'll see you all in Toronto next week. We appreciate you tuning in for Remember the Show. Enjoy the fights this weekend. UFC back in your lives. For Belal Muhammad, I'm Jason Anik. We'll see you next week. Have a great night. Later.